My name is Melissa Malcolm, and this is my Using Classroom Centers workshop for ETD 544. This is Using Classroom Centers, a guide to using classroom centers in your classroom. The learning objectives for this workshop are learners will be able to set up centers in their classroom within a week of the workshop. Learners will be able to come up with hands-on activities that will keep their students' interest within a week of the workshop. Learners will be able to plan for the centers during the presentation. Learners will learn about different types of assessments and evaluations that they may use after setting up their own centers. And learners may be able to learn about the benefits of using classroom centers during the presentation. Learners will be able to share stories of how they implement centers 2 weeks after the presentation. What is a center? There's no specific meaning to the word center. Ideally, centers provide multiple hands-on materials and meaningful activities. It can mean different things to different people. For instance, a lot of people try to just throw a worksheet out. That's not what a center means to me. A center for me is a center should provide opportunities for your students to be actively involved in learning. And if they're doing a worksheet, then that is not getting them actively involved in the learning process. Why use centers? Centers allow you to work with small groups of children where you have more one-on-one interaction with them, and who wouldn't want that? You want to be able as a teacher to talk one-on-one and help as many students one-on-one as you can. Centers give you a chance to provide differentiated instruction to different learning groups. My lower students need to have different activities than my higher level students. I don't want my lower level students to struggle during an activity, and I don't want my higher level students to get bored doing an activity. Centers also allow for different learning styles, whether the learner is a visual learner or auditory learner. You work with that and you figure out what activities are going to be good for them. Centers also give students the opportunity to explore, discover, and create, work with other classmates, use critical thinking skills, and become more independent learners. When you give students choices of how they're going to learn, then they will start beginning to be independent learners. How to plan for centers. While planning for your centers, you need to take a look at your philosophy and teaching style. You need to make sure you know how you want to use your centers. And again, do you want your centers just to be worksheets? Do you want your students to have hands-on activities that they're doing and getting creative for? You need to take your time while planning your centers. You need to think your decisions through, because if you decide for the moment on an activity to do, the activity might not come out the way you want it to be. If you jump in too fast, you may get frustrated and feel like giving up. If you say, okay, I'm going to start centers tomorrow, well, you need to do some research on that, because all your activities, you're going to have to prepare your activities, you have to figure out what you're going to do and plan for them. So you have to kind of take your time getting into them. There are different types of centers. We have our curriculum-oriented centers, which are math, science, writing, reading, and social studies, and our activity centers, which are art, cooking, games, computers, and puzzles. For our math centers are going to provide students with an opportunity to apply the skills that were already taught in the classroom. They are going to allow the students to use manipulatives such as Lincoln cubes, dice, pattern blocks, rulers, color tiles as a tool in learning. They're going to be easy to set up and easy to use. You might just have 2 dice, have them roll the 2 dice, have them add the 2 numbers together. Simple as that. You're going to use hands-on games and materials with simple directions. And that's the key word, simple directions. You're going to want to make sure that you have practiced these games already with the students and they know exactly what is expected of them. In our science centers, you're going to use your Common Core standards to build on activities. Students get a chance to use experimentation to explore science. They're actually going to become the scientists, and it gets them to think outside of the box. In our writing centers, they're going to address areas such as writing for pleasure, sharing information, conveying meaning. For instance, my students love writing about what they did over the weekend or what they plan on doing this weekend. That's writing for pleasure. They love to write about it. And they love to share any of that information with me, and it conveys meaning to me that they're getting their understanding of the writing process. You can also use your writing center to create books, cards, stories, recipes, and directions. In our reading centers are going to allow the students to use strategies to become fluent readers. This will be where I pull students for a strategy group, maybe on fluency or comprehension, and that's going to help my students become better readers. We're going to also emphasize in the Reading Center to practice, practice, practice reading. Social Studies Centers should expand the students' knowledge of a specific area. They may be working on maps, and they may be creating a map of the classroom or a map of the playground, and they're going to be able to do that with reading, writing, and technology. In our activity centers, these are for pretty much fun and for the students to get a hands-on activity and play also. These include art, cooking, games, computers, and puzzles. The guidelines for the types of activities you're going to want to use in your centers are that activities should be meaningful and not busy work. You're just not going to give the students a worksheet and say, do this worksheet. You're going to want to actually have them go around the room and count as many things as they can instead of writing their numbers. Or you might have them write their numbers, but you might also have them color in the even numbers and the odd numbers different colors. Your activities need to be developmentally appropriate. You can't have something that a 6th grader could do for a 1st grader. You need to make sure that where they're at developmentally is going to be appropriate for their activities. You should also include choices for low, medium, and high-level students. You want students that are struggling to not get frustrated, so you need to get your instruction down to their level and their differentiated instruction. And activities should be hands-on and have students actively involved. You need to make sure you develop appropriate activities. You're going to use your state guidelines and curriculum guides to figure out what concepts and skills need to be taught. Again, the big thing to remember here is you're not introducing a new concept. You're introducing a concept you have already taught, already had them practice, and you're just bringing it back to give them more practice on it. You're getting the children actively involved by creating and developing hands-on materials. And also we're going to develop activities and materials that allow children to practice and apply skills and concepts that have already been introduced in the class. I came up with a list of activity resources, and each provide a hyperlink to areas. Underneath kindergarten, I've got the ABC Center activities, I've got Math Center activities, I've got Literacy Center activities. Under 1st grade, I did Literacy Center activities again, Math Center activities again, and then Art Center activities. You might say, okay, now you got me sold on centers, but how much time should I spend on my centers? And spending center time, it's going to actually depend on a couple of things. You're going to make sure that your center time is divided up into 3 sections. The first is going to be the focus section, and that's going to be about 5 minutes. And then your biggest chunk of time is going to be your work time, which should be about 10-15 minutes. And then the last section is going to be your sharing time, which should be about 5 minutes. And again, like I said, the length of time for each center depends on your following factors. Time of the year. At the beginning of the year, I couldn't get them to sit for 10 minutes to do centers. Now we're up to 25 minutes. The age of the student. If they're young, they might not want to sit that long. And also the types of activities. If it's something they're really interested in, they'll want to do it for as long as they can. How to organize centers. I've included a video on a hyperlink. I tried to embed the video in and it didn't work, but we go into the video on YouTube, and it's called Organizing Classroom Centers. And if you need to, you can go right into the little quick browser.
I'm Shelley Gray from the Teaching in the Early Years blog, and today I'm here to talk to you about organizing your classroom learning centers. There are many.
And what she does during this video is she just tells you how to organize your centers using Ziploc bags and cereal boxes to use for directions. When you group your students, your groups can be anywhere between 1 to 5 children depending on your own decision. If I have 3 students really struggling with their work, I'm going to group those 3 students together because they have similar needs. Also, I'm going to group students together on their ability to work together. And you'll know that within 5 minutes if those children are able to work together or not. Also, skill instruction. Higher level, I could pair with lower level skills to help them out. Enrichment activities and then common interests. You're going to want to change your group weekly or monthly to give the children an opportunity to work with everyone in the class. I like to change mine every 2 weeks or so, and it gets them to get new faces and talk to different students. There's two systems to the centers. There's a rotation system and a self-selected system. In the rotation system, it's just like it states, so it's rotating. They go through their centers in a very systematic way. They're going to work for a specific amount of time and then move to the next center. Work some more time, go to the next center. Work some more time, go to their last center. On a self-selected system, the children are going to move themselves through the centers, again in a systematic way, but it allows them to have more choice and create decision-making skills, and the students work at their own pace. Now again, it depends on the amount of centers that you have if you would like to do a rotation or a self-selected. If you have 3 to 4 centers, you're going to want to do a rotation system. If you have 8 center ideas, you're going to want to do self-selected. There are different types of assessments and evaluations. You can use sticky notes to help write down some information about what's going on with each student. You can keep a folder with you as you walk around the room and jot down what's going on. You're also going to want to conference with the student and ask them, how did you get that answer? Not just what answer did you get, but ask them how and why. And conferencing is also going to help students accomplish goals and set new goals. And you know what? Conferencing is very easy and effective. This is the end of my presentation. I hope you really enjoyed it. In my regular workshop, I would have discussion after this, and then we would talk about forming activities in their classrooms, and then we would actually go through some hands-on activities. So again, thank you so much. My name is Melissa Malcolm, and this was for ETD 544.